Alrighty, welcome to the 106th edition of Before the Battle here live on YouTube. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. Joining me, as always, is Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. Unfortunately, Wes Riddle of MMA Secca unable to join us here on episode 106 of the show. Jed, you are here mostly. I know your internet is completely messed up right now. I don't know if the viewers will see a clear Jed Meshew or a blurry Jed Meshew. I don't know how often you will drop out of this podcast over the next hour to an hour and a half, however long it takes us to go through this weekend's card. Nonetheless, you are here right now as of this very second. How are you doing?
I'm doing extremely poorly. My internet's terrible. It's a long, convoluted story, but the end result is I'm working with less than a megabyte per second, which means the very sheer fact that I'm doing this video at all is nuking anything else I might possibly be able to do while we do this. So that's fun and exciting. But other than that, I'm happy to talk about the last fight card for like a month. So that's cool.
There you go. We have UFC Fight Night 128, Atlantic City, New Jersey, going down this Saturday night. Edson Barboza, Kevin Lee, lightweight contenders in the main event. We have the rematch at featherweight between Frankie Edgar and Cub Swanson. We have some other fun matchups. I know this card is kind of going under the radar, but I actually think it's a pretty good card.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Sure. It's a fine card. It's always going to go under the radar because they do 58 events a year, and there's
13 fights as well.
Yeah, again, there are 13 fights. There are like 4 that matter, and if they did less cards, then I could be more excited about watching Chase Sherman and Justin Willis. But instead, I don't give a fuck about I care about the main event I'm looking at the card right now. I care about the main event. I don't actually care about the co-main event, but I will at least credit that the co-main event is a legitimate fight that it bears notice, just based on what it will do to the division. But I give not a shit about Frankie Edgar versus Cub Swanson because I've already seen it. Aspen Ladd is a good prospect, so I'm sort of interested in that. Patrick Cummins, Corey Anderson is actually top light heavyweight fight, which should tell you everything you need to know about that fucking division. So, yeah, Aljamain Sterling, Brett Johns, I care about. Edson Barboza, Kevin Lee, I care about. And if I squint my eyes, maybe I can talk myself into caring about David Brant's Thiago Santos. Otherwise, nope, don't give a shit. And that's basically indicative of the entire UFC product now is they're just going to throw a ever-loving pile of shit at you and make none of it meaningful.
Jim Miller had that fantastic song about cocaine, and you still don't care about the veteran?
I mean, that was a good song, and I think Jim Miller's, the fight with Dan Hooker is probably going to be fun. I'll give it that credit, but
it is one of 13 fights, and
yeah, it's when have you ever gotten excited about a Jim Miller fight? Even though I think Jim Miller is a good, competent fighter, he's been a top 20 dude for the better part of a decade, and that earns a lot of my respect. But I don't.
The fact of the matter is that fight doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
In the grand scheme of things.
8-fight card, I would care. I'd be more invested in it. But instead, he is one of 7 hours of my life that's going to be fucking taken up if I choose to watch this on Saturday. And by if I choose, I mean I'm choosing to watch it because I will probably be working it. So, but if I wasn't, I try not to think about what I have to do working wise. But before I started working in MMA, I was a fucking hardcore fan, and I imbibed all this shit and was excited about it because there were 30 events a year, and so it was a little more special, and there were less fighters. And look, I'm gonna end my sermon on this note. You and I, that we watch every fight the UFC has put on. I think every fight the UFC has put on that has been physically possible for me to see. Because I went back and watched all the old events. I write a daily column, basically cataloging the news of yesterday. I do that daily. I frequently, when we are doing this show, come across people that I did not know were in the UFC or whose names or faces I don't recognize and have been in the UFC for 4 fights. There's something wrong when that's a byproduct of your product. That's all I got to say.
It's true. Anyways, that is another story for another day. I'm sure
Like
once you're
Uka Sasaki. Has he fought in the
maybe
UFC
it's not
before?
another story for another day. Maybe it's for episode 106 of Before the Battle. Go
Has
ahead.
Uka Sasaki fought in the UFC before?
Yeah.
How many times? Don't tell
I
me. You can
okay.
look it up because obviously I can't look up fucking anything on my
Sure.
shitty internet right now. I believe that I remember him fighting in the UFC once. I'm going to say that he has fought twice. Am I wrong?
Without looking at his record, yes, you are wrong. I've seen him fight. I would guess I'm going to say 5 times. So let me look at his record and see what his UFC record is. Okay, he is 3-4 in the UFC. He has 7
Yeah.
UFC fights.
Fans
Now,
out there can be like, wow, Jed, that's disappointing that you don't know this. Why would I listen to your advice? Because I pay pretty close attention to this shit, guys. I really do. And I can't tell you a single fucking person off the top of my head that Uka Sasaki has fought. And if I can't tell you, if me, someone as plugged in as I am, cannot tell you off the top of their head one opponent out of 7, that dude doesn't need to be in the fucking organization. No disrespect to him intended, but like he just doesn't fucking need to be here.
I've seen him fight all 7 times. I'm just putting that out there.
So have I.
Yeah.
I have seen every event because I watched them all. Who's he fought?
But what I mean is that I looking on his record, I recall seeing those fights, maybe all except for one.
Who run them down quickly?
He fought for Megan his last fight. Then before that, he beat
I remember that now.
Justin Scoggins. Before that, he lost to Wilson Hayes. He has a win over Will.
I remember the Hayes loss. He got dump trucked.
He has a win over Willie Gates. He lost to.
I was at the Hayes loss, wasn't I? Wasn't that 2-1?
No. Yes. Yes.
I was physically at the arena, and I don't remember that motherfucker. Funny. I did pre-fight interviews with him.
Yeah.
Shit. Anyway, we can move on now.
We will talk more about Yuta Sasaki later on. But anyways, let us go back.
I'm excited about this break we have coming up.
We had UFC on Fox 28. No, UFC on Fox 28. Yeah, 28. No, 29. It doesn't matter. UFC Glendale last Saturday night. Dustin Poirier defeats Justin Gaethje, 4th round TKO. Fight of the year so far. Probably will be fight of the year when it is all said and done. And we're talking about this in December. Let's go to you, Jed, for our results. You got our picks and our underdog pick of the week and our bonuses predictions. I got our DraftKings, so I'll run that through later. But for now, what do you have for us?
Well, just tell us our DraftKings real quick.
All right. DraftKings, I am your champion. I am your DraftKings champion. Finally, I have dethroned the king, Jed Meshew. I think, did Wes Riddle win last week or did you again?
I did. I was the double last week.
Okay, so
Wes and I tied for bonus picks.
So I have dethroned you. Finally. I honestly wouldn't have cared if it was Wes, but as long as you are off your throne, that makes me happy. I come in at top with 403.5 points. I had Israel Adesanya only actually picked up 58.5 points. That's
we all had him. Though,
I know. So. Gilbert Burns though picked up well over 100. Justin Gaethje came in short, but still 57. It's funny. He got a point less than Adesanya, but the big winner was Alex Oliveira. He got over 100. You came in second with 348.5 points. You got a big 113.5 with Antonio Carlos Jr.
Yeah, she faced.
You fell short with Christoph Jotko, Diego Lima, and Justin Gaethje. And Wes Riddle comes in at the very bottom, 335.5 points. His big winners were Gilbert Burns and Muslim Salikov. He fell short with Jotko, Tim Bosch, and Justin Gaethje. He, of course, also had Adesanya. That is our DraftKings. I'm your champ. Now let's go to you, Jed, for our picks, underdog pick of the week, and bonuses.
I'm glad you won because Wes Riddle has dethroned me as the picks champ. He went 9-5, a very good showing. You went 8-6. You were just one tucked in there behind him. I had a bad week all around. I went 6-8. I just missed a lot on this card, man. I took some shots on underdogs. None of them paid off, and I missed a lot of favorites. That granted, several the Bueller loss, everybody sort of lost on that. Same with Lopez, but. Yeah, bad round for me. As far as bonuses went, we all did basically exactly the same. We all got fight of the night right. We picked Poirier Gaethje. Shocker. It was fight of the night. Your bonus winners were Alexander. Cowboy Oliveira and White. And I consider that total bullshit. And I think you did get robbed, Nick, because Gilbert Burns 100% deserved a bonus far over Alex Oliveira's bonus. Like Alex Oliveira, frankly, over White too. Because I know that tapping somebody with an omoplata is cool because like it's never happened, but it's also some white belt shit. And what Gilbert Burns did was dope, and it was definitely better than Alex Oliveira's guillotine, and it was frankly definitely better than White, and he got screwed. And you had him as one of your picks for performance bonuses. You also had Dustin Poirier, who frankly, you know, I wouldn't have been upset if you decided to give him a bonus too. So you totally got screwed. Wes had Salikov and Adesanya. I had Adesanya and Gaethje, so it was never coming up for us on those. You got screwed, but Wes, by virtue of having the belt last week, retained since all of us tied with one. Our business is attended to. We can progress to the infinite fight card that awaits us.
Well, here we go. 13 fights in Atlantic City, New Jersey. UFC Fight Night 128. Edson Barboza, Kevin Lee. Let us go to that card now. Let me bring it up. It kicks off at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. We have kicking things off.
It starts off at 6:30?
Yep.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Main card is 6 fights at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Awesome. What in the name of fuck Jesus is going on?
We kick things off in the welterweight division. Tony Martin, Kaden Nakamura. Tony Martin is a pretty sizable favorite here. Do you like him in this fight? This is his first fight since moving down to American Top Team full-time. We may see some improvements, but Kei Taro, he always brings it. He is coming off a loss, I believe. So is Tony Martin. Who does get back on track here? Nakamura, the underdog, or Tony Martin?
How big of an underdog is Nakamura?
Actually, Nakamura, correction, is coming off a win over Alex Murano, just for what it's
worth. Yeah. How big of an underdog is Nakamura?
I do not know. I will know in about 5 seconds.
Okay. Well, the answer
Nakamura
here
is plus 215.
Well, I sort of like Kaden Nakamura. I don't know why. I don't like, again, if he just never fought again in the UFC, that'd be really cool. Like I wouldn't be upset with that at all. But I do think that he is a little bit better than he gets credit for. And I don't care about Tony Martin. I think that Nakamura is a southpaw. That usually makes me feel a little better. On the feet, neither of these guys are world beaters. Maybe a little closely contested there. Who the fuck knows? I'm going the difference here being that Kaden Nakamura can wrestle and Tony Martin's not really like super good at that. So a little bit surprised that Nakamura is that big of an underdog. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. Don't even really care. Give me Kaden Nakamura to use his wrestling to take advantage of the susceptible Tony Martin. We don't have picks from Wes Riddle this week, so it's just you and me running through this shit, by the way.
So we are split down the middle right away. I am being the coward and picking the favorite, as I often do. I'm going with Tony Martin here to defeat Kaden Nakamura by decision. I think he's a better striker here. I think the move to ATT can definitely do some good things for Tony Martin's career. I don't know if we see a completely different fighter first time out, but I think, you know, as time goes on, we will see a more improved Tony Martin. I'm interested to see how he rebounds from the Olivier Aubin-Mercier fight. That was only a split decision back in September, so he didn't take tons of damage. That was a very close fight. He could be on a 4-fight winning streak. I think he's actually looked really good as of late. I know his last 3 fights have all gone to decision, so that's not the best look, but he does have some submission skills. Kaden Nakamura does too. I think at this point in both their careers, Martin has a lot more upside than Nakamura, and I think Martin's a better striker. So I like Martin to basically, I think he has a bigger striking advantage than either fighter would have an advantage on the ground. So give me Tony Martin by unanimous decision. Let's move on to the bantamweight division. We got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Ricky Simone. We got Georgia versus the United States of America newcomer. Ricky Simone, of course, was the LFA bantamweight champion, defended the title once, and then headed over to the UFC finally. Long overdue for Ricky Simone, in my opinion. Who do you like here? Ricky Simone's the favorite, or do you think Dvalishvili picks up his first UFC win?
I just want it to be made very clear here. Neither of these gentlemen have Wikipedia pages. So that's cool. That's what I'm going to be doing at 7 o'clock on a fucking Saturday night, is watching two dudes who can't even merit Wikipedia pages. Give me Ricky Simon, Simone, whatever, Simon. This is America Land. It's Ricky Simon. I'm looking right at the words, and you pronounce that Simon. Ricky Simon, I do, for all the shit I just gave him about, not having a Wikipedia page. You're right. He probably should have been brought over earlier. The UFC has farmed LFA for their champions for quite a while now, and usually to not like stellar results, but solid contributors in the cage. And I don't think a whole shit ton of Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, we've only seen him the once, but he didn't do it that time. So why is he going to do it this time? So give me Ricky Simon to make a successful debut.
Yeah, I mean, I think both guys are kind of similar in a way. Both guys are decent grapplers, decent strikers, kind of well-rounded. I actually think this might be a decent fight, but at the end of the day, Rob Dvalishvili is coming off the loss to Frankie Saenz. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I know that fight was really close, and I might have actually scored it for Dvalishvili, so maybe this point doesn't really or isn't all that valid, but I just don't know how far Dvalishvili can go. I'm pretty high on Simone. I got to get that right, despite what you said. I'm in Canada, so although it's still Simon up here. Anyways, I'm going Ricky Simone to win this fight. I think he's a better grappler. I think he'll probably outstrike him as well. Dvalishvili is good, but I don't know. I think Ricky Simone's just better. So give me Ricky Simone by unanimous decision to win his UFC debut. After that, we have women's bantamweights Leslie Smith and Aspen Ladd. Smith is, of course, heading the latest attempt to unionize UFC and Bellator fighters. Interesting matchup here with Aspen Ladd, who, of course, is a pretty, she's fairly hyped up right now. There's a lot of buzz surrounding her going into her UFC debut. Not Conor McGregor buzz, per se, but still someone that it's definitely worth keeping your eye out for. Leslie Smith definitely has a tough task ahead of her, but she is on a bit of a winning streak, and I think a quiet one. Not a lot of people have been looking at Leslie Smith as, hey, she's a top 10 bantamweight in the UFC, but hey, she has the number 9 number next to her record.
Holy shit, does she really?
She does, yes.
Good God.
Nonetheless, Leslie Smith, Aspen Ladd, who do you like?
Oh my God. Quick, all right, off the top of your head, can you tell me who Leslie Smith beat last?
It was a Brazilian. She fought on the Ponzinibbio Gunnar Nelson card.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
I just don't know.
I bet you can't pick her name because she doesn't have a fucking Wikipedia page either. Her name is Amanda Lemos. So yeah. I genuinely had no idea Leslie Smith was ranked.
Number 9 too.
I think if you went back over the course of all of my public spiels about mixed martial arts, you would find that I have long been an advocate of women's mixed arts. I loved Meg Megumi Fujii. I was an absolute enormous fan of hers. If Leslie Smith is going to be a top 10 bantamweight, maybe we just got to shut the shit down, man, because that's just that one stings. Aspen Ladd's going to beat her. Also, I love the shit out of Leslie Smith. I think she is there's a non-zero chance she goes down as one of the most important fighters in MMA history, despite the fact that she's not really all that great at fighting and certainly will never win a belt of any fashion. But the fight that she has undertaken is significantly more important and awesome and takes way bigger balls than the rest of the fucking roster has. So I have nothing but good things to say about Leslie Smith, the person. I just think that she is not a tremendous fighter. Aspen Ladd is a top talent. She's only 23 or 24, and she has been making big strides in improvement time in and time out. I think she stopped everybody except for Sajar Eubanks, who went on to be fairly successful in the tough thingy, and is probably a top-ranked fucking flyweight at this point.
She's number 1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be right there because Jesus. Yeah, I think Aspen Ladd's just really good. Something to watch here. I think she can win on the floor or on the feet. Either way, I think she's ahead, and I expect her to kind of work over Leslie Smith. Leslie Smith's tough. Can't ever take that away from her. So I think Ladd will probably get a decision here. Won't be able to stop it.
What is
She's got to be a big favorite. It's the dog. Stop.
I feel like this show should be nicknamed Jed Meshew has no faith in the UFC. It seems like every fight we're talking, it's like, I don't know who this is. No Wikipedia. I mean, it's all fair. It's all very valid, of course, but you sure don't have much faith. And again, I don't really blame you. I'm picking Aspen.
Why would I have faith in her? She's gonna lose.
No, not in Leslie Smith, in the UFC.
No.
Like just in general.
Oh yeah. Well, they've proven time and again to be really bad at their job.
Yes, I'm going to Aspen Ladd as well. I think Ladd's the better grappler here. You could make a case that Smith has better stand-up, but Ladd's ground and pound is really good. For a young fighter, I mean, Aspen Ladd has a lot of potential here. The bantamweight division is in need of these rising prospects. I think Aspen Ladd can make some noise in the division. Do you throw her to the wolves right away? No, but you need to build her up. But I think Leslie Smith is a good step up because Leslie Smith has a bit of a name at least. She's a veteran of the sport. She has 18 fights. I would imagine that's above average for the women's bantamweight division. And so I think this is a good fight for Ladd, but I think it's definitely a winnable one. Give me Aspen Ladd by do you have Ladd stopping her out of curiosity?
No, I have decision.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. But Leslie Smith is so tough. So I'll go decision as well.
Tough.
Although 3 decisions in a row on Fight Pass. Not a fantastic start to this card.
It's going to be a really great card, guys.
We move to the FS1 prelims, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific with light heavyweight.
I don't know about you. I'm pretty excited to watch 45 minutes of cage fighting amongst people that I mostly don't give a shit about because they're all going to decisions. It's really going to be great.
We move to the top 10 or top 11.
We get to move to a light heavyweight fight.
That's between 2 top contenders. One is named Corey Overtime Anderson. The other is good old Coffee himself, Patrick Durkin Cummins.
All right.
I feel like this fight should have happened a long time ago. Both guys are basically
the same fighter. It already happened. You could totally convince me if you tried that like this fight already took place in his rematch. More importantly, real talk. This is the type of thing you might know off the top of your head, and I don't. If Patrick Cummins wins, he's got to be on like one of, if not the longest winning streaks in the division.
He beat Jan Blachowicz in the past year, and Jan Blachowicz is ranked in the top 5.
I know. And what I'm saying is Patrick Cummins, this will be his 3rd win in a row. And so, like, I know Shogun's on a 3-fight winning streak, but that 3-fight winning streak has Shogun, like, in title contention because it's one of the longest ones in the division. Like seriously, if he wins this, it's him and Shogun. And I don't think there's anybody else at light heavyweight that has a commiserate. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Well, Leo Latifi would get a title shot before Patrick Cummins. Let's make that clear.
How many wins does Leo Latifi have in a row?
I'm not saying he has more wins in a row.
No, I don't give a shit about the title shot. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this win would put him at like tied for the most wins in the light heavyweight division.
Leo Latifi has won 2 in a row.
Yeah, exactly. How fucking insane is that? That somehow Patrick Cummins, by like virtue of math, legitimately could start being like, I deserve
streaks at 205. Shogun and Patrick Cummins.
Patrick Cummins wins. He calls out Shogun. The 2 biggest winning streaks at 205 go head to head for a title shot. That's what's going to happen in this world. They're going to get to take a title shot against Alexander Gustafsson because Cormier is off being a heavyweight. It's burn 205 to the motherfucking ground.
And that fight, I'm sure, will headline a pay-per-view card when the other fight gets canceled.
Yeah, I want this is the of all the things I've said tonight. You listener, want you to focus very hard because this is the most important one.
All 2 of you.
What are the ranks of these 2 gentlemen, sir? You have them?
10 and 11.
This is the number 10, the number 11 guy. These are 2 of the 12 to 15 toughest men in the world in that weight class. The next time anybody tries to look at you and tell you with a straight face that Demetrius Johnson is king of a shitty division, slap them in the fucking head. Because John Jones lords over the worst fucking division in modern history. This is some dog shit that these two men are as highly ranked as they are.
John Jones is ranked, just an FYI.
I know, but we all understand that he is the king of the division, juice or no juice, whatever. And the whole argument for him over Demetrius Johnson is, well, look at his wins. They're great. He beat 4 middleweights and a bunch of shitty people and Daniel Cormier twice and barely beat Alexander Gustafsson. That's his record. This is his division. I will take John Moraga and Wilson Hayes over these two fucks any day of the week. I'll just segue seamlessly into my pick here. No one gives a shit. This is going to hopefully be fun in the same way that the Blachowicz-Cummins fight was fun, because Patrick Cummins got hit real hard in the fucking face. Except for he didn't, because Patrick Cummins has a really bad chin. That's just like a fact. I think the dude's cool. He's fun. He's friends with a lot of the people I work with. That's awesome. He's a really good wrestler. He doesn't take getting punched in the face well. Fortunately for him, Jan Blachowicz is really not all that good at punching people in the face particularly hard. And so that kind of worked out that even when he got rocked, Blachowicz couldn't really put him away, and then he just kind of wrestled his way to squeaking that one out. Corey Anderson, for whatever his faults and foibles may be, can wrestle a little bit and can punch people in the face. And Patrick Cummins is at some point probably going to get punched in the face, and he's going to fall over and he's going to be dead. So that's my pick here. I assume Corey Anderson's the favorite, but I'm going to take him.
Yeah, give me Beaston 25-8. Rest in peace, that nickname. Overtime still 10 times worse.
Corey Anderson, I can't believe I picked that. That's a terrible pick, because Beaston 25-8 is a great name.
Yes, it is. Corey Anderson will win this fight. I'm not confident. Like, if Patrick Cummins just comes in here and does Patrick Cummins things, I won't be shocked.
Anderson is a great defensive wrestler. It's true. He's not like great at it.
No, and he also won like a 2-fight losing streak. I mean, Corey Anderson's not a great fighter. Let's just make that clear. This isn't going to be a one-sided beatdown for overtime.
Jimmy Manuwa knocked him out and then thought he would call out Daniel Cormier because Jimmy Manuwa was insane.
Yeah, Jimmy Manuwa was also coming off loss to someone I didn't think was UFC caliber.
It's true. He probably isn't, if we're being honest with ourselves at this point. Because the entire light heavyweight division, other than Daniel fucking Cormier and John Jones, aren't UFC caliber.
Yeah, I guess
burn this division to the fucking ground. I can't believe Chris Weidman hasn't come up to be champion of this division. He'd beat the shit out of these bums.
Well, he wouldn't beat Daniel Cormier, but
no, but Daniel Cormier is done now. He's off to being a heavyweight.
Yes. Okay. Anyways, I'm going Corey Anderson. I think he's a better striker. I don't think he'll hit Cummins and Cummins will fall over. I think this will be a grinding, boring decision where both guys are kind of gassed out. I think Anderson, though, has the better gas tank. Give me Corey Anderson. I hope for a first-round KO from either guy so we don't have to endure 205-pound or 15 minutes of 205-pound grinding, boring sluggishness. But it's probably what we're going to get. Corey Anderson by decision. Move to the welterweight division. Siar Bahadurzada taking on Luan Chagas.
Shit, I don't fucking know. I know that I've seen both of these men fight. I could not pick Luan Chagas out of a crowd of 2, but I do know that Luan Chagas beat Judo Jim Wallhead. That's okay. Conversely, Sarah Bahadurzada beat Brandon Thatch, and if this was 5 years ago, we might think Brandon Thatch was good, but he is not, and we found that out. Luan Chagas is younger. Sure, let's go with that one. Don't care. Luan Chagas. Don't bet based on this pick, by the way. I clearly don't give a flying fuck about this fight. If this fight was on LFA, it could go away. I'm not doing a betting preview for this dog shit. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I was concerned for.
Although I would bet on Aspen Ladd. She's less than a minus 150 favorite. I think she'll whip Leslie Smith's ass. I don't really understand that.
Yeah, I was concerned for MMAfighting.com for the readers if you were doing a gambling guide for this, but thankfully you are not. Give me Siar Bahadurzada in this fight. I think he's probably going to knock Luan Chagas out. I think we have first-round stoppage written all over this fight. It's kind of a weird one because like both guys, it's not like Lewin Chagas goes out there, swings heavy leather, and knocks out his opponents in the first round all the time. And CR is not really like that either. But my gut feeling is that we do get an early stoppage here. Give me CR Bahadurzada, the great himself, to beat Lewin Chagas. He's probably a better striker. Chagas is probably the better grappler, but hey, anything can happen in MMA. Give me CR by first round knockout. We move on to a disciple of Ramzan Kadyrov. It is Magomed Bibulatov taking on Yuta Sasaki, the person we talked about earlier that Jed doesn't really know, but I've seen fight and I've seen him fight most times. Jed, are you going to go Sasaki just because he's so much bigger and because he doesn't work with a warlord, or yeah?
No, because he's not good. Like I said, he's fought 7 times, and I can't recall a goddamn thing about him. And he's fought a bunch of like good flyweights.
Good guys. Wilson Hayes, Juicy Formiga.
Yeah. Justin Scoggins is a good sort of flyweight when he sometimes makes weight. But Magomed Bibulatov is like actually good at fighting. The fact that he has almost certainly fucking killed like probably multiple people in shady back alleys or whatever and dumped bodies in shallow graves makes my stomach turn. And, you know, of the many things that I've lambasted the UFC for sucking at, hiring this motherfucker, we should just move that right to the top of the goddamn list. But, yeah, he's probably going to metaphorically murder Ugo Sasaki as opposed to literally murder him like he has done to political opposition in his native country, where he is the enforcer for a shitty warlord. So, yeah, give me Bibulatov, and I hate it.
Yeah, have to agree. Give me Magomed Bibulatov by decision here. Yuta Sasaki, he's pretty tough, and obviously he's so lanky. I mean, this guy has to be the biggest flyweight in the UFC to date ever. I mean, the guy used to fight at bantamweight. I don't know how he makes the cut. He's obviously super skinny, but he still has a 71-inch reach. He's 70 inches tall. What's 70 inches in height and or not?
What?
70 inches to feet. It's
70 inches is 6 feet.
That's crazy. That's great. 6 feet? No, 5.8 feet. It says
70. Sure, I don't know.
But nonetheless, I mean, he's still 5'9". That's crazy.
Oh yeah, 60 inches is 5. So yeah. So
mathematics at its finest. Nonetheless, I mean, Sasaki is so big, but he doesn't use his range all that well. He does end up on his back often. That's where Bibulatov works the best, on top, grinding his opponents out. His striking is not half bad either. So give me Magomed Bibulatov by decision. I think he'll be able to take down the Sasaki repetitively and get the job done. And yeah, Bibulatov by decision. We move on to the final FS1 prelim. Ryan LaFleur, Alex Garcia at 170 pounds. Jed, I don't care about this fight, but we still have to make a pick. Who's it going to be?
There was a time when I sort of cared about Ryan LaFleur. That time has passed. And I think Alex Garcia is like, he's a body. He fights and couldn't charitably be called good enough to be in the UFC, I guess. I think Ryan LaFleur wins. My question would be if Ryan LaFleur is too fucking old to be doing this anymore. He's got to be pushing 40. I don't know. And it feels like he's like had several injury layoffs and just like not been all that active in general. But which is never like a great sign. But I do think that like there was once upon a time this guy was top 15-ish kind of welterweight, and I think that I'm just going to stick with the pedigree on it. You know, basically every time Alex Garcia's fought like a good fighter, he's lost. I mean, I respect the fuck out of Mike Powell, but Mike Powell was 100 years old when they fought, and just needed to hang his boots up before he did. But yeah, I think maybe this is the same sort of thing. You know, I will say, looking at his record, he has had a history of beating up over the hill fighters in Pyle and Swick. And it's very possible that Ryan LaFleur is just going to be another name on that list. But I do think LaFleur's kind of volume on the feet, probably enough to get it done. And I don't know that Alex Garcia is going to have a ton of success working a grappling game against Ryan LaFleur, who, did a good job fending off Demian fucking Maia. So, yeah, give me a Ryan LaFleur by decision because we're just going to have all decisions on this card.
Yeah, give me Ryan LaFleur by decision. Have I picked a finish? Yes, I picked Sierra Bahadur by finish. But other than that, all decisions. Here's another one for you, Ryan LaFleur by decision. I think it'll be unanimous. I think he'll be able to outstrike Alex Garcia on the feet. Both guys are pretty well-rounded. Alex Garcia not totally known in the UFC for his ground skills, but he's coming off a submission win over Muslim Salikov, who just picked up a knockout victory over Ricky Rainey in his second fight this past weekend in Glendale. I mean, Salikov's a pretty good fighter. Garcia, that was a good win for Garcia, but he's too tentative at times.
I'm sorry, Salikov's a good fighter because he beat who?
A guy that lost to Michael Venom Page.
He beat who? Who the fuck is Ricky Rainey?
You watched him fight last weekend.
I know, but who the fuck is Ricky Rainey for you to try and tell me Salikov was a good fighter because he beat him? He knocked the shit out of him. That was cool. Doesn't make him a good fighter.
I actually think Salikov, I mean, you can forget that the Ricky Rainey fight happened. I actually think Salikov's a decent fighter.
I think he maybe could be at some point in the future.
But whatever.
That point is not now.
We don't need to talk about Muslim Salikov. I think LaFleur is a better striker. I think this one will play out on the feet. Garcia is just too tentative for me. He doesn't land or throw enough. I mean, his landed per minute is 2. That's fairly low. LaFleur's isn't super high. It's only 3.02, but that's still 1.02 more than the Dominican Nightmare. And so I'm going to go Ryan LaFleur here by decision. If Garcia tags him, I won't be all that shocked. LaFleur hasn't fought for a while. He's coming off that knockout loss to Alex Oliveira last July. LaFleur is also a really good wrestler. Sometimes I forget that. So I think that LaFleur can probably win wherever. Give me LaFleur by decision. With that, we move on to the FS1 main card. 6 fights on FS1, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off in the lightweight division. Jim Miller, Dan the Hangman Hooker. Jed, you like Hooker, the big favorite here, or does Jim Miller get back into the winning column?
Yeah, I think you got to take Dan Hooker. I've been a ride or die Jim Miller guy for a while, but he's old. He's way smaller than Dan Hooker, who's like way too large to fit in this division, frankly, but he does. He is probably just going to get outworked on the feet. And as good a wrestler as Jim Miller is, I think he's underrated in his offensive capabilities. He took the shit out of Thiago Alves, who is a very good defender of takedowns usually. I just think that kind of all the factors are lined up for this to be putting him out to pasture, give him his 4th loss in a row. And that's a damn shame. But I don't know that Dan Hooker's going to embarrass him. I think he's going to win and win convincingly, but I don't think he's going to bolt him 20 seconds into the fight. It's going to be purely can Jim Miller get takedowns and make a grappling game out of this? If he can, he's going to beat Dan Hooker. I just don't think he's going to. Give me Dan Hooker by decision.
Do I pick my second stoppage? No, I don't think so. I don't think Dan Hooker can stop Jim Miller. Jim Miller's too tough. He's been stopped before, but I don't think Dan Hooker is good enough to stop Jim Miller. I think Dan Hooker is probably the best Dan Hooker there's been. If that makes any sense. Basically, I think he's at his peak right now. I think he's looked as good as he ever has in his last fight lately, last few fights. On the other hand, Jim Miller is riding a 3-fight losing streak, but he's lost to Dustin Poirier, who's in the top 5. He's lost to former champion Anthony Pettis, who definitely is not the same Anthony Pettis we saw won the lightweight title in 2013, but that's still not a bad loss. And then losing to Francisco Trinaldo is really not a bad loss either. Trinaldo's a really good fighter. He's top 15 as well. And so Jim Miller hasn't won since 2016. This will, he kind of needs this one because Dan Hooker is definitely the smallest name he would have lost to in quite a while. But Dan Hooker is probably going to get the job done here. He's the sharper striker. He has a lot less or a lot more gas left in the gas tank. A lot less damage taken over the years. He's lost 7 times, though. He definitely is not unbeatable. He's only won 2 in a row. 2 very impressive wins: submission over Marchie Casey, knockout over Ross Pearson, although Pearson is kind of done. Yeah, this could go Jim Miller's way. Now that I think about it, I think I looked at this initially and thought Hooker all day, but I'm not going to talk myself into picking Jim Miller, but I think he has a chance. I mean, there is a path to victory here. Take Hooker down, keep him there, look for the submission. Dan Hooker, though, is better on the feet. He does have some submission abilities himself. A lot of them, actually, 50% of his wins have come by sub. And so give me Dan Hooker. I think he'll get the job done here, but I don't think he'll stop Jim Miller. Miller is super tough. Give me Dan Hooker by decision. I'm curious what that reaction was to. Anything?
I'm making my DraftKings team. I have so much money left over.
All right. Well, we will get to that later on. But for now, let's go to the bantamweight division. And finally, we go to a fight that I'm actually pretty excited for. Aljamain Sterling versus Brett Johns.
Nobody's excited to watch Brett Johns fight. He has a forgettable name.
I am excited. Remember, we did the MMA Circus a few weeks ago, and we were talking about fights under the radar that we were looking forward to. Remember, I said Sterling Johns was one of them. You kind of disagreed with me. Well, same story here.
You're an insane person. You understand that this fight, even if you do like purely coming at it from like these are 2 top 10 guys. This is like this fight's going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us kind of is Brett Johns ready to really step up and put himself right in the thick of title contention? Is Aljamain Sterling, is he just going to be that guy who always is going to just not really fulfill all the potential and promise we've saw and that his coaches have seen in him? There's storylines coming in. This fight is going to be boring as a motherfucker to watch, and that is on my word what's going to happen here. Whoever wins, it ain't going to be fun.
It could be fun, but the more I think about it, yeah,
it's going to be the most boring motherfucking fight of the card.
Well, that's unfortunate because it is my second most anticipated fight of the entire card.
Yeah, if they ended up doing like pool fucking grappling, it'd be awesome because Aljamain Sterling can grapple and can give up position grappling, and Brett Johns fucking tapped Joe Soto with the calf slicer in like 3 seconds, which I don't think anybody will ever recognize how impossibly cool and difficult that is. Like Joe Soto can grapple his ass off, and Brett Johns hit him with the fucking calf slicer in under a minute. Like
Joe Soto's a finalist of EBI, just to sort of give
that's
some people
wild shit, and I don't think people give that enough credit. Like Brett Johns, much love and respect for that. But if this doesn't end in grappling exchanges, it's going to be some real fucking boring, shitty kickboxing with Aljamain Sterling doing his like mediocre point fighting and Brett Johns just trying to put volume on him, and it's just not going to be good.
So who's the pick?
Shit.
Odds are dead even, I believe. Aljamain Sterling has moved into a bit of a favorite role. He is minus 125.
I would have assumed Aljo is moved into a favorite because he has better raw tools to work with here. Brett Johns
is a more notable fighter.
The reality is Brett Johns is all Brett Johns is ever going to be. Like he's here. He has maximized his talent and potential, and he keeps doing that, and that's good and should be valued and appreciated. And he is a quality fighter, a top guy in a good deep division, but he is never going to really blow your socks off with like the potential that he has. Whereas Aljamain Sterling has a shitload of potential and seems to really be good at like mental errors that fuck him up hardcore and cost him fights. I don't think ducking into the Marias knee was a mental error. I think he just got fucked up because Marlon Marias is really good. The same token, Sun Sao is, I think, really good fighter who will never get appreciated like he should. But the Caraway loss was not strong. I'm still out there just because I back talent, and one of these days, hopefully, he'll put it all together, and that'll be cool. He's got good coaches behind him, and I think that he can, I think on the ground he can kind of control Brett Johns for the most part, but maybe Brett Johns is super tricky. Who the fuck knows? I am my only care in this fight is that we get floor exchanges because if we don't, it's going to be awful. But yeah, I'm going to take Aljamain Sterling to take a decision and hope that this fight isn't awful.
Give me 1 second. I'm just sending out a tweet so we get a couple more viewers. Okay, I am going to actually go the other way. So we are
Oh
in
shit! Look at you
disagreement.
picking an underdog.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it'll be the first of the night, and there might be one more coming. I don't know. We will see. I'm going Brett Johns though. I like him not a lot, very little. I initially was going Sterling. When Bloody Elbow sent out the staff pick sheet, I think on Monday, I initially wrote down Sterling, and then I think yesterday I went in there and changed to Johns. My thought initially with Sterling was that he might be as good of a grappler as Johns. He probably is, but his striking's better, and so he has more ways to win. And he also has fought better competition. He's a lot more proven. He's lost. I think that actually kind of counts for something. The fact that, well, actually, no, I don't. But I did think Sterling had a good, a bit of a chance here. But I'm thinking Brett Johns is actually the more. I think he's better on the ground. I think his control is better. I think he's better on top. He's good at maintaining position. We saw that against Albert Morales in, I believe, what was his last fight? Might have been his second last one. I do not recall. No, it was his second last one because with the Joe Soto fight. How could I forget? Aljamain Sterling, on the other end, as you said, has given up grappling exchanges. He has been out grappled. Of course, you go back to 2016 May. He got beat by Brian McCarraway. That was his first pro career loss. Since then, he's lost a couple times to Marlon Rice and who did he lose? Oh, Hafilo Senso. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, if this is on his feet, I probably favor Sterling ever so slightly, but on the mat, I'm liking the Pikey. I like I like Wales' own Brett Johns to win this fight and win the biggest fight of his career. This is a big opportunity for Brett Johns. He's not really well known. He is ranked already, though, which is a little surprising, but I think well deserved. He's a good fighter, and he's taken on the number 8 bantamweight in the world or in the UFC, and so yeah, I think he'll get the job done here, and I think this guy can go pretty far. He definitely should work on his striking. I'm sure he is. His grappling's really good though for now, and that's been winning him fights. He's 15-0, hasn't lost a single bout, and so give me Brett Johns here by decision. Again, yet another decision. What a great card this will be. Let's move on to a fight that, if this goes to the judges, I will probably just turn off the TV after that. David Branch versus Thiago Moreta Santos at middleweight. Thiago Santos is on a 4-fight knockout winning streak. David Branch is coming off a submission loss to former middleweight champion Luke Rockhold. Before that, he beat Krzysztof Jotko. That was his return fight after his long run over at WSOF as their middleweight and light heavyweight champion. Thiago Santos is about a 2-to-1 favorite here. Branch, the sizable underdog. Do you agree with that, or do you think David Branch will get back into the winning column?
I don't fucking know, man. The odds are stupid. David Branch should not be that big of an underdog because Thiago Santos sucks on the floor. There's nowhere else. Like, there's literally no other way to put it. He's not good at the ground game. And David Branch is buttoned up, professional mixed martial artist, been doing this shit a long time, veteran, 2 belts in a different organization, can take people down, can tap them. That's his avenue to victory. If he stays on the feet, Thiago Santos falls over and dies. Whether he can or not, Thiago Santos is pretty good for takedowns. Dave Branch isn't like a world beater wrestler. Just because Santos is rolling, I'm going to back that momentum. I feel a lot of trepidation in this pick. I will in no way be surprised if Dave Branch literally just takes him down like immediately. Thiago Santos comes in, throws a body kick. David Branch catches it, rides him to the floor, and then taps him. But just give me the guy who's been winning consistently in the UFC versus not doing those things.
Yeah, give me Thiago Santos here as well. I like him to knock out David Branch. David Branch is a really good fighter. I mean, he's not bad whatsoever, but he can get knocked out. Has he been knocked out? He has 4 losses. One was to Luke Rockhold. Before that,
I'm
honestly.
not looking.
But it doesn't really matter. Thiago Santos knocks out people that have never been knocked out before. This guy is insane. He's on a big winning streak. He has the momentum, and I don't think that momentum stops here. He's in a big spot against the number 8 middleweight in the UFC. He's number 12, so he'll definitely jump to the top 10 with a win here. Stylistically, this isn't like a great matchup for Santos just because he has been grinded out before, choked out Gegard Mousasi, and a big upset to Eric Spicely. But does David Branch have the raw submission skills that he'll be able to get Santos down? His wrestling is really good. I just don't know if he'll be able to lock in a choke. Will he take Thiago Santos down in this fight? It's pretty possible. Will he get Santos flatten out entirely when Santos is gassed out and pound him out or choke him out? I don't think so. I think Thiago Santos keeps it standing more than he doesn't. And I think he lands something big, whether it's a kick or a punch. I don't know. Doesn't matter when it comes to Thiago Santos, but I do think he'll get the knockout in round number 2. We move on to the heavyweight division. Justin Willis versus Chase Sherman. We have 6-1 versus 11-4. Justin Willis is a big favorite here. He is minus 335 with the comeback on Chase Sherman at plus 275. Jed, do you agree with that? Do you think Chase Sherman has a chance here, or will it be one-way traffic for Big Pretty?
I'm going to assume that it's one-way traffic for Big Pretty here. Chase Sherman has never been taken down in the UFC. That's good to know for him. But Justin Willis is probably going to take him down. More to the point, Justin Willis just can do that if he needs to. But if he wants to stay on the feet, Justin Willis doesn't Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman sort of a volume boxer at heavyweight, which is rare. Can take a good punch, take a lot of the punches, which is not really a great strategic plan. I just sort of think Justin Willis is like a better athlete, hits with more power, better wrestler, better all around at all of the things. And so Justin Willis will probably win. This is a fight that doesn't need to be on a main card, much less on a UFC card at all. So, yeah, there's that. Give me Justin Willis by third round TKO ground and pound.
Yeah, you mean Justin Willis here? I don't think he'll actually go to the ground. I think he'll just, strike Chase Sherman up on the feet where he has the advantage. Could he take him down? Sure. I've never really thought about that, but could happen. But more likely for me, in my opinion anyways, I think Justin Willis just, does good work on the feet until Chase Sherman finally goes down. Chase Sherman has a really good chin, and so I don't think it'll be one shot Chase Sherman is done, but an accumulation of shots from Justin Willis will definitely hurt Chase Sherman and eventually take him out of this fight. So give me Justin Willis by knockout in round number 2. Alrighty, we move to the co-main event. One fight that does actually matter, although it's weird because you said earlier in the show that you don't really care about Edgar Swanson. I'm in the same boat. What's that?
Who does? Who would give a shit about this fight? It's two guys that are only relevant in the division by the fact that the division hasn't made its turnover yet, but is about to do it. They've already fought. No one gives a shit. This is like the worst of the kind of fight Scott Coker makes. But it makes sense, and it's a good fight to make. It's just not a fight that makes me care at all.
Yeah, it's weird because it's a fight that does kind of matter because they're still ranked in the top 5 in one of the better divisions. 3 versus
shit, the winner here could slot into a title fight if Brian Ortega gets hurt.
No, it's true. I mean, Edgar
really easily.
Swanson, but
no, fuck if Cub Swanson wins, and Ortega gets hurt, shit, he can go in and fight Max Holloway. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? Edgar can go in and fight Max Holloway. They're not going to run Aldo 3, and Aldo's going to beat up Jeremy Stevens whenever they fight, if that ever becomes official. So,
fact of the matter is, Frankie Edgar, his last fight before, Ortega was booked against the champion, Max Holloway. And so, I guess we really should care a little bit, but it's kind of hard to just because we know both guys, they're coming off losses to Brian Ortega. Both guys look pretty bad in those fights. Edgar shouldn't be fighting this soon. That's a big concern for me, and just really kind of throws, puts a bad taste in my mouth if I'm being honest. And then again, it's kind of like both guys have been there done that, but what else is there for them to do? How much gas do they have left? Both of them, not too much. So, nonetheless, it is happening. It's going down on Saturday in the co-main. Who's the pick? Frankie Edgar or Cub Swanson? They're running it back. Frankie Edgar tapped Cub Swanson out with a second remaining back in November 2016, 2014. Does he do it again?
He should. Like, when you say he tapped him out, he beat the ever-living shit out of Cub Swanson for 24 minutes and 50 seconds and then just cranked the shit out of his face, and Cub Swanson tapped like a child getting owned by his big brother. Like, that's honestly probably the best Frankie Edgar performance was his Cub Swanson. Just absolute. He owned every minute of him. And there's no reason that this fight should go any different. And yet, I'm going to pick Cub Swanson because Frankie Edgar just got the shit beat out of him like a week ago. How long ago was that fight?
Less than 2 months ago.
Yeah, like less
March
than 2
3rd.
months. March 3rd. Like, that's literally 6 weeks ago. Like, it's too fucking soon. And Cub Swanson does hit hard. And Cub Swanson, it did not just go through a training camp. And so the one thing I'll say as far as like an actual analytical approach to this, which I know I've been really light on for this card, but I just can't do with this bullshit today, is that when Bisping had the 3-week turnaround and came back after getting knocked out by George St. Pierre and fought Kelvin Gastelum, everyone knew it was a really bad idea. And that would have happened regardless. I want to be very clear. Kelvin Gastelum was going to beat the ever-living fuck out of Michael Bisping, regardless if Bisping had a month to prepare, a year to prepare, or 10 fucking years. There was never but one outcome for it. But he did say something afterwards as he was being introspective about it that stuck with me in a way that I think maybe we don't give enough credence to. And it's that, he admitted that the short turnaround was a bad idea, but it wasn't because his brain was addled and like, oh, I'm more susceptible to getting knocked out, which is probably medically true, but like I feel like that's kind of an area that doesn't matter a huge amount of deal. Like I think Frankie Edgar's brain is fine for the most part now, but what he did say is that it was very hard to have the mentality for it because he had just done a full fight camp, a big fight, an important fight, came in, took it, and then basically immediately turned around and got right back into that same fight camp mode. And so he had trained his body to peak for the one time, and that peak was for the GSP fight. And then he was hustling his body in a quick turnaround to get back into that same spot, and that it wore him down mentally and emotionally, and that kind of played havoc with him going into this main event. And I think that is kind of the thing I'm a little more concerned about here for Frankie Edgar, is that he has had an emotional roller coaster in the last couple of weeks here. He thought he was fighting for a title. Max Holloway got sort of injured, but then wasn't because he basically immediately was like, oh, shit, yeah, I can fucking fight Khabib now, which is still weird, the fact that we just don't ever talk about the fact that Max Holloway was injured for a week. Not that I think he was ducking Frankie because he beat the fuck out of Frankie, but it's just very odd that his injury was over so quickly. And they would have known that and weren't like, okay, let's just push Frankie Max back a month then, if that's all it's going to take for Max to be ready to go again. That's a side point. I digress. So he had a title fight. He thought maybe this was the time he was finally going to get his belt. That was taken away from him. He accepted a short notice fight against a guy who sucks at fighting, but is probably going to be a Hall of Famer because apparently he keeps winning, even though I'm convinced he's not good. And then he got the shit beat out of him by that guy. He was beating him up until the point that he was not beating him, and then things turned abruptly. And that's a lot of action going through his head where after that loss, frankly, he probably had to feel like that was probably the last time he was ever going to be in title contention, just reasonably. That loss felt like a changing of the guard moment for him. And so now he's getting shoved back into a short notice rematch against the guy he already owned in the most physically dominant way really that you possibly can do. Very low upside. Everything seems to be working against him. And he's fucking old. And I think it's the time. I could be wrong. I'm willing to admit that I'm likely wrong, that Frankie's probably going to come up, box his ears, take him down, and beat the shit out of Cub on the ground, who has never been a super good grappler. But I am just going to say that the turnaround's too quick, and Cub is going to land the big punch on that now cracked chin and do the damn thing. Give me Cub Swanson for the upset because fuck it, why not?
There we go. I disagree. I'm going Frankie Edgar to win this fight, to win the rematch, to put it 2-0 against Cub, Killer Cub, that is. I think this might be less dominant than the first fight, but I really don't know. I mean, Frankie Edgar is a lot more done than he was in that fight 4 years ago. Cub Swanson's a lot more done than he was in that fight 4 years ago, but has one guy declined more than the other since November 2014? It's really hard to say. Frankie Edgar was in title contention up until 6 weeks ago, as you said, Jed. He was supposed to fight Max Holloway for the title. He would have had that opportunity had it not been for Max Holloway getting injured. And then, Frankie Edgar doing Frankie Edgar things, took the Brian Ortega fight, and it all went south from there. Stylistically, not a great fight for Cub Swanson. He's never been a great takedown defender. He's never been great off his back or on the ground in general. He's gotten tapped out before. Brian Ortega, Max Holloway. Although, obviously, those guys are the two best featherweights in the world right now, so does it really matter? We don't know. But Frankie Edgar ultimately should be able to get on top of Cub Swanson. He should be able to do kind of the same thing, ground and pound him until Cub Swanson just is done, basically. With this being a 3-rounder, I actually do think this will go to the decision. But I think it'll definitely be Frankie Edgar's. I think he'll rack up more points. On the feet, this is a close fight. Cub Swanson's a really good striker. Frankie Edgar's, obviously no slouch in the striking department himself. I think there's a way bigger advantage for Edgar on the feet than there is for Swanson on the bigger advantage for Edgar on the ground than there is for Swanson on the feet. I'm going Frankie Edgar to put it 2-0 against Killer Cub and win the rematch and get back into the winning column. Frankie Edgar by unanimous decision. That brings us to the UFC Atlantic City main event. We have lightweight contenders Edson Barboza and Kevin Lee looking to get back into the winning column. And as I say that, I think about it. One thing about this card that I think people just don't love is that the 4 main and co-main event fighters are all coming off losses. And I don't think that's a great thing, but nonetheless,
I don't think that anybody watching this card will even register that fact. I think that the reason people don't like this card is Kevin Lee Edson Barboza, which is a perfectly good fight, is a fight that shouldn't really main event a fucking event. It just shouldn't. It's a fight that should be a co-main event on a good card somewhere.
I'm totally okay with Barboza the 5 rounds on fight night, or on a fight night.
They should have 5 rounds because all adults should fight 5 rounds. That's a different debate. I'm talking about it should not be the thing that's on a poster to make people want to tune in because no one gives a fuck about them. Kevin Lee may one day be famous and a star. People smarter than me seem to think that. I am not sure I see quite that, but him and Barboza staring at each other on a shitty made fight poster. He's FS1 got to do that. Like that. Anyways, that's a co-main event fight. Really is.
Anyways, we have Edson Barboza take on Kevin Lee. Who is the pick? Who walks away back into the winning column and a lightweight contender?
Kevin Lee. My fondness for Edson Barboza's game, limited as it may be, and my firm belief that he is a bad matchup for a lot of people in this division. But Kevin Lee really turned a corner for me in the Tony Ferguson fight. He just beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson until he got tired. And I personally am willing to believe that he got tired because he had an enormous fucking staph infection and was on antibiotics, because that makes a lot of sense. He honestly, he was really close to stopping Tony Ferguson in the first round, to stopping him. He just beat the shit out of him. And we've seen Edson Barboza get the shit beat out of him. And granted, Khabib and Kevin Lee are very different wrestlers, but they do have a physicality in their game that is close. I think Kevin Lee is kind of one of the only guys who can just match the sheer physicality of Khabib in the division. And I think that he can functionally replicate a lot of what Khabib did to just beat the ever-living bejesus out of Edson Barboza. If he can't, I won't be super surprised. And I'm still not sure about his chin. And Edson Barboza hits really hard. Maybe he catches him at some point, but for the time, I'm riding high on the Kevin Lee bandwagon, which sucks. That means we're gonna have to hear him talk more. And I don't think he's good with words. He just says I feel like he likes to talk just to talk, like just to hear the words out of his mouth, like Conor McGregor, really. And I fucking hate Conor McGregor, so, but it's just awful. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't fucking know. I don't care. I'm so tired of this. I just want us to. I can't wait for our break. This is a good fight objectively, and on fight night, I think I'll be excited about it because I do see avenues to win for both. But I'm riding on the Kevin Lee bandwagon. We'll see if that works out for me. Give me Kevin Lee by third round stoppage.
We will be in disagreement yet again. Give me Edson Barboza, the Brazilian, to get the job done and get back. Kevin Lee is.
Okay.
Kevin Lee is -155. Come back on Barboza plus 135.
Look at you. You picked 2, maybe 3. I don't really know who the Chagas Baharazad favorite is.
Well, actually, as of now, Chagas is. But last time I looked,
so it's like an eat fight. Okay.
I'm going to Edson Barboza. My pick here is pretty simple. My reasoning, I should say. Kevin Lee is a great fighter. He might be a champion one day in the lightweight division when guys like Khabib don't need to fight anymore, when guys like Tony Ferguson are 40 years old, when guys like Edson are gone, when Conor is doing whatever or in jail or anything. When everyone's gone and Kevin Lee's the only person left, he could be a champion. I really do believe that, but he's still young. He's still getting better, and that's okay. I mean, he doesn't need to be the best lightweight on the planet this very second. Edson Barboza isn't the best matchup for him. I don't think he's the worst. Edson Barboza is probably the best striker in the lightweight division. Do you think that's true?
Is there anyone? I know what you mean. I mean, he's good at many types of striking, and he's but it's the lightweight division is just so diverse and so deep that so Edson Barboza can't really pressure all that well. He's like Pettis, and he wants to operate at space. He doesn't handle pressure super well, though he has been getting a lot better about it. But Eddie Alvarez has better boxing than Edson Barboza does, better striking in total. It's just lightweight is such a diverse division with sort of unique kind of skill sets to fighters that Conor McGregor's a really good striker in the ways that he's a really good striker, even if he's sort of a limited striker. He's really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's I think he would beat if we only got to fight stand-up fights. I think he probably if this was kickboxing and 4-ounce gloves, I think he's probably the champ. In that regard, so I guess that would mean he's the best striker. But I think he'd kick the
ever-loving so many different Jesus out of Conor.
Yeah, some people who can put forth a really good pressuring game on the feet could give him problems. And Conor doesn't do that exactly well. He doesn't pressure in combinations. He pressures in single shots. I think he'd beat the shit out of Conor, but I don't I know he and Eddie would never fight, but I think Eddie Alvarez could in fact give him lots of problems.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Barboza,
he's up there.
The fact is that he's a better striker than Kevin Lee.
Yes.
And I think Edson Barboza has good enough takedown defense to defend off most of Kevin Lee's takedown attempts. Kevin Lee is really good on top. He is a very good wrestler, and so I could be underrating that skill set of his. Maybe he does go in there and take Edson down at will and ground him out, maybe submit him, and pick up the biggest win of his career. But I think Barboza does have good enough takedown defense. I said it earlier, I believe it was, maybe on the MMA circuits the other night, but Edson Barboza lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov in his last fight, who happens to be the UFC lightweight champion now. But I don't look at that and say, oh, Kevin Lee's going to do the same thing. Khabib and Kevin Lee are so one guy's a champ for a reason, the other isn't for a reason. Khabib's just the better wrestler. He's way better. He is sort of a 1 in a million athlete when it comes to the UFC. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I think maybe not. Edson Barboza, should this stay standing, he's going to, destroy Kevin Lee on the feet. Now, does it go to the ground? It really could. If it does, Kevin Lee's probably going to tap out Edson Barboza. It looked like the Tony Ferguson fight, or maybe just like the Khabib fight. But I think this one stays standing. I favor Edson Barboza there. I think he'll be able to chop Kevin Lee up with leg kicks. I think he'll eventually frustrate Kevin Lee because Kevin Lee won't be able to take him down nearly as often as he would like. And over 5 rounds, I'm very intrigued how this one plays out because we haven't seen Kevin Lee go 5 rounds. He's been in 2 5-round fights. Neither went the distance. One was to Michael Chiesa, which he tapped out, or who he tapped out, I should say, and the other was Tony Ferguson, where he got tapped out. Edson Barboza, I believe, has been 5 rounds. Is that accurate? I don't know, but
I'm sorry. What was the question? I wasn't paying attention.
Has Edson Barboza gone 5 rounds in the UFC?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's interesting. So I think this might be the first time for both guys. I'll be interested to see how they do conditioning wise in the later championship rounds. But assuming all goes okay, I think this one stays standing. I don't know what will happen in those championship rounds. I assume similar to what will happen early on, and I think that's Barboza chopping down Kevin Lee with strikes, with punches, with kicks, and I think Edson Barboza will get the job done. So give me Edson Barboza by decision. And I just realized I picked so many decisions, and this card might not be nearly as good as I thought. Well, that is it for UFC Atlantic City, UFC Fight Night 128, UFC Fight Night Barboza versus Lee. Thank you all for watching. Before we go, we have to, of course, take care of a few things. Time for our bonuses and our underdog pick of the week. Jed, I'll let you go first.
My bonus is fight of the night. I'm going Dan Miller, Jim Miller, Dan Hooker. Jeez. My performance bonus is I'm going to give one to Kevin Lee and one to Cub Swanson. And my underdog, I picked, depending on how you view Chagas, I picked 3. I had Nakamura and then Cub Swanson. I'm just going to go with Cub Swanson, even though I feel more confident that Nakamura would do it than Cub Swanson. But if Cub's going to do it, it's going to be cool. So fuck it. Go with Cubby. Might as well. And then for my DraftKings, I'll just fire that up so then we can get on out of here. I'm going to take both of my performance bonus winners, especially since Cub Swanson is a big-time underdog on this card. I've got Kevin Lee, Cub Swanson, and then I'm also sticking with mostly main eventers or mostly main card guys. Justin Willis, Thiago Santos, and then I'm backing that up with Corey Anderson and, of course, Keita Nakamura.
Alrighty. My bonuses will play out like this. My fight tonight will be Barboza versus Lee. And my performances of the night will go to Justin Willis and Thiago Santos. I would be tempted to go Sterling Johnson's fight of the night, but I think there's...
I'm sorry, re-say what you just said, sorry.
Yes, fight of the night, Barboza Lee.
Okay.
And then performances, Justin Willis and Thiago Santos.
Okay.
I'd be tempted to go CR Bahadurzada as a performance, but I'm going to go. I mean, main card fighters usually get them before the prelim guys, which sucks, but it is the way it is. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Willis Santos and of course the main event for fight of the night. DraftKings, what's
your underdog?
Oh, didn't say it. My underdog, okay, so I have Edson
Barboza. Where your 2 underdogs picked?
Yeah, Brett Johnson, Barboza. Technically, Bahadurzada right now is an underdog, but I know you said Chagas is, or whatever.
I just decided not to pick it since he's...
Underdog will be Edson Barboza.
All right.
DraftKings, did you say your team?
I did. I gave my team off. My team is Kevin Lee, Cub Swanson, Justin Willis, Thiago Santos, Corey Anderson, Keita Nakamura.
Well, we only share 2 fighters, so that'll be good. My team is as follows. We have Edson Barboza. We have Justin Willis. I guess to start out, we share Thiago Santos and Justin Willis. Then we differ. I have Edson Barboza. I have Brett Johns. I have CR Bahadurzada. And the lone fighter I am not picking, but still is on my team, is Alex Garcia. It's basically him or Merab Dvalishvili. I think there's a good chance Merab does get more points than him because I think his will be a closer decision than Garcia's, and he's a bit more active than Garcia. But if Garcia lands that big bomb, LaFleur has been knocked out before. He can't be knocked out again. Alex Garcia, instant 100 points if he does land that big bomb, and it's possible. So that's my reasoning for that. I don't think it's a terrible pick at 7,600. The other ones I like. I think CR will get a finish. Santos will. Willis will. Johns won't, but maybe get some points for scrambles and all that. And Barboza, got to have the main event winner on your team pretty much always. So that's it. Episode 106, UFC Atlantic City edition of Before the Battle in the books. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Go give this video a thumbs up down there. And later, when you are done watching, when we have left you, go click the MMA Circus down there and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that as well. If you have any feedback for the show, good or bad, leave a message down there in the comment section down below. Jed, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can find your MMA coverage, and I guess anything else you got to say.
Find my writing at MMAfighting.com. Follow me on Twitter at JedKMeshew.
Boom. All right, you guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at BloodyElbow.com. You can find all of my interviews. Some of them do go over to Bloody Elbow. All of them are on this YouTube channel. So once again, go hit the MMA Circus down there. Go subscribe to the channel and go check out all my interviews. Posted one with Ricky Simone, who, of course, fights Merab Dvalishvili at UFC Atlantic City this Saturday. Tomorrow, I will be posting audio interviews with Santiago Ponzinibbio and Tim Johnson, who is headed over to the Bellator heavyweight division from, of course, the UFC. That is all from me. I'll be doing recaps for the main and co-main event of Atlantic City for Bloody Elbow, so check those out Sunday morning. That's it. Thank you all for watching. For Jed Meshew, Wes Riddle, wherever he's at, I'm Nick Baldwin. Enjoy the fights on Saturday.
Love you guys.